Let's move on to people, and that discussion and decision about making sure we have the right people around the table and that we've balanced head and heart. Before we consider the people, we need to have a look at, well, what might make people interested? If you remember, we talked about this fact that we've got an invited or an assisted space, and different things might actually make people feel like they want to be part of your project, your organisation. One is proximity. Yeah, they may be close to you in a physical sense or close to your services, which means they have a sense of connection to what you're doing, which means they're going to be interested. However, that's not the only reason people might be interested. Some people might be interested because of cultural or community reasons. Some people might be interested in the CRCs because actually it's just they're a member of the community, or culturally the land has more significance for them, particularly with the Aboriginal communities. You know, you're working on traditional owner lands, so they actually may feel a sense of connection to what you're doing, even though they may not have a direct connection to your services. Some may actually feel connected to the work by a sense of cause. Yeah, they've got a more of an ideological connection to regional community development and those needs, and so they may actually have nothing to do with your community or your town, but feel connected to your work because of that belief in what you do. Some get involved just because of ego. Yeah, they like to be the ones and they like to be seen to be the ones that have their fingers in lots of different pies, and sometimes leaving those people out can be a bit fraught, so we need to understand who those people are. Some have regulatory responsibilities. They are the ones that get to say whether things happen or don't happen. Some regards you could even put funding bodies in that kind of basket, where they set and define some of the parameters. And communities have lots of commentators, whether that be formally through the media, whether that be community members with their blogging. They have their own ways of working and actually commentating on what you're doing. So we need to make sure we include them. And then of course we have the political aspect. Yeah, local government, state, federal. Yeah, there are people who have a role that is political in the community that may mean or overlap with the work that you're trying to do. So that's the first flush, to actually go, well, are we just going to the usual suspects, or have we gone around and thought about who turns people onto your project? Then we could actually do a bit of an assessment. We could actually even start going, each of those people, what level of influence do they have? What level of impact do they have? And where in this grid could people go? There may be some people who have a lot of influence, but actually they're not being impacted very much on the project, or the project's not going to have a big impact on them. There are some people who the project's going to have a really big impact, but actually they may not be given very much influence. So doing this impact and influence assessment would actually allow you to go, you know what, there may be some people that we're going to need to try and move out of that influence zone, some people we might need to move into the influence zone, and we're going to need to maybe provide different information to different people depending on where they fit. It's just a way of doing some stakeholder assessment. So let's have a look at another way of assessing stakeholders. The first way was looking at influence and impact. This one's looking more at it from a values base. Beginning to have a think about, well, who are the people that are really strongly opposed to what we're doing? And what are their views? Who are the people that are strongly in favour, and what are their views? And do we actually understand the difference between what their views are and what they value? I might have a view that CRCs aren't a particularly effective means of working with the community, but I might really value the thought of vibrant regional communities. So if I had that view and you came to me as a CRC, you could argue with me about the value of the CRC, yeah, you could argue about the view, or you could come and have a conversation with me about our shared values, and from there build some shared views. Really often conflict happens because people are actually arguing at that level of view, and they don't realise that just under the surface there's more often than not some shared values that build commonality. So doing that mapping helps to build really generative conversations and discussions. And then I guess the third part of understanding people, and this is back to some of the work of IAP2, is looking at the levels of influence you're going to offer. And what they offer is a spectrum, yeah, from inform, consult, involve, collaborate, empower, which is basically saying how much influence are you offering different stakeholders in this process? Are you just going to inform them? Are you just going to tell them what you're going to do, and your job is just to let them know, inform? Are you going to consult? Are you going to go out there, get their feedback just once and then go away and make your decision? Are you going to involve? Are you going to actually go out to them once, go away, develop some plans and come back to them and actually have another discussion, or maybe another discussion again? So involve is like consult, but on a bit of a loop, so you do it more. Or are you going to collaborate? Are you actually going to have them around the table as you make the decisions? There still might be a final sign-off by your board or by another decision-making body, but are you going to collaborate and effectively have the really tough conversations as you're walking through? And then finally, are you going to empower? Which basically is saying what you decide or what you tell us is important is what we're going to do. So the spectrum gives you a nice range of 5 to be really honest and upfront with people about what level of influence you're offering them in this conversation. And that may well be something that's negotiated and may well change for different people in different parts of the project. So let's get back to Bungalyup. And what you'll see in the template that's there is we've gone through all the different stakeholders. We've had a look at who they were. We've said, well, this is the kind of influence they have. This is the kind of impact they have. And this is the kind of interest they're going to have. And from that, we'd actually make a bit of a note as to what level of influence we're going to be offering them as they go through. And you'll see some notes along the side. So in your engagement plan, you can begin to map that out and get a bit of a sense of who you're going to need to bring in to what stage of the project.